I think Michael and Dini say a little bit about why you think, first, Michael, why you think a review panel would make sense or wouldn't make sense, and then Dini, and then Shauna. Michael, are you there? Is Michael on the line?
Michael, unmute yourself.
Hello?
There we go.
Yes,
Yeah,
there
go
he
ahead,
is.
Michael.
Actually, if the review panel is just sort of some people to sort of watch the check for eligibility, it's less of a problem. But actually, what I just heard about the deep dive was less definitive than what was said yesterday. It seems like what you said today was you're sort of relying on people not to apply. You haven't really said what happens if somebody does apply outside of the deep dive. Yesterday, it sounded like you were saying that you wouldn't accept anything outside of the deep dive, and you didn't really repeat that today. So what I don't want to see the panel doing is being a selection panel. If they're just there to participate in the check for eligibility, then that's less of a problem. But what I don't want to see is like a tiny group of 2 or 3 people becoming somehow representing the 30 people who are actually part of this process. I think you cannot represent at a ratio of 1 to 10. That's not really possible to represent people that way.
So thank you, Michael, on the two issue of the application process and the panel. Dini, do you want to say something about the panel?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say our understanding all along was that the city was going to vet for eligibility to make sure that the projects met the criteria. And if we've done that, and our process has brought forward the proposals and has vetted it for eligibility, I don't see, and I don't understand the need for this review panel at all. And now you're saying that, you know, this whole issue about no conflict of interest means it's arm's length, people who are not involved, who get to have some kind of approval of whether or not our projects are sound. And one of the things that is very concerning to me is you keep comparing us to other revitalization communities across the city. And the comparative is really offsetting. We are the oldest, largest public housing community. We started this project 13 years ago. We've done this for 13 years without proper investment. And we were asked to develop a process that would be inclusive and participatory and collaborative, which we did. It was approved. And all through this, there's been no conversation until now about a final review panel. It just kind of challenges the integrity of what we're doing here. And
thank you, Dini. Yeah, go ahead, Dini, finish.
Go ahead. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Shauna and Daniel, what do you call it? An answer towards what Michael had said, and then the review panel.
Just before we go, Mulwan, was your question on the review panel? I see.
No, my question was towards what Michael said, which was I think which is more of a suggestion. Actually, I was just trying to suggest and say that any single project or idea that's going to be proposed for this funding, I'm suggesting that needs to be followed up with a letter of endorsement from either the co-chairs of these working tables or the deep dive committee. That's just suggesting to make sure, because I know yesterday there was a lot of language, a lot of city language that was spoken about, and I do know, it is an open call. So I think to respect the process that Dini Dini and others have constantly, brought up, I think we need to follow this up with a letter of endorsement. Just suggesting, that's all.
Okay, thanks. And if anyone else has a suggestion, please type them in the chat so we can continue with the flow. If it's a question, raise your hand. If suggestions and information you just want us to remember, please type in the chat. Thank you.
So Shauna, I know that you need to head out, if not now, shortly. Were you able to respond before you head out?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit of information about how the applications come in, and I do appreciate the previous speaker's comments about a letter of endorsement. It's true that the deep dive proposals as they exist right now, throughout the next 2 to 3 weeks, they may change a little bit. Things do change over time. I hear you're going to be having another gathering where you further refine them, but they do come in through Checkmarket, and we can do a checks and balance once the deadline has come to pass, and when we do our first review of all of the applications that come in. So there are kind of technical ways of, we certainly will review everything that comes in, but we want to assure that they all come from this deep dive historical process, and we can work with you on making sure that that is the case. I'm just going to quickly go to the review panels, and thank you, Deanie, for your comments. It is a part of the Toronto Grants policy. When you read through it, it is a flexible policy. We have a significant amount of information in there regarding our work with the Indigenous community and how challenging review panels are for a community that is so tight-knit and so historically close and together. And I think that has a lot in common with what I'm hearing about the Regent Park community. It is a process that we do, and it's kind of one of those checks and balances that we need to have. As I mentioned, what was envisioned was not it was more of a final read, just to make sure that someone who is not unknown to Regent Park, but who is not significantly attached to any of the proposals could go through them. It's sometimes great to have a different set of eyes, just review something to make suggestions, or even to give it a final nod. But that is something that I can definitely bring back to the community funding unit to see what that process might look like, and if we can come to a process that might be more agreeable.
Thank you.
I might just add into that as well. It is not designed to be overriding the decisions that have been made to date. We celebrate the process that has been made to date. We value that and aren't trying to recreate that. This is simply a final read, a check on the language, the idea, and really hearing it with those fresh eyes to say, oh, that makes sense. Or maybe they didn't think about this, or I have a question with regards to this because it's not clear enough. That's the purpose. It's not to say green light, red light, yes, no, pass. You pass $100. Like, that's not the point. So don't hear it as that.
Thank you, Shauna and Daniel, because when I read the document, it said may. What do you call? And then what I wondered was that the may is possibilities. It's not a necessity. So you said you'll go back and sort of within the funding committee, within the funding unit, and see flexibility. I think we strongly would recommend that flexibility. And we would take up on the option of the may. And I appreciate the fact that you put the word may there as opposed to we will. Yeah, so I think we look forward. So I think we can update this. We have in agreement right now, put in the notes section that Shauna will report back on that piece for finalization. So the next one was, what do you call it? And then yes, Michael said yesterday's language was only through the deep dive. Now you've communicated that you can set up some technical tools to make sure that applications that does not come out of the deep dive, individual applications from stakeholders, that you have some technical tools to make sure that that's it's not the spirit. And I'm unclear about what those technical tools are, but if we can put it in the notes, that as well.
Ishmael, Nyan has a question about this review panel.
Okay, go ahead, Nyan.
Hi, I wrote my questions in the chat, but basically listening to who would make up the review panel, I was just trying to understand, like just trying to think about who would be a good candidate to be sitting on the panel, who knows the community well, but isn't really linked to the projects that we're going to be submitting. So I just couldn't quite come up with that. And I was wondering what that recruitment process looks like to find people to sit on the panel, and understand that there's been clarifications made on the purpose of the panel, that it's not a selections committee, but more of a for a final read. But because this group is people who are really connected to the community and have put in and have always been willing to put in the work to do. So who are the people? I'm just curious what the process might look like.
So
Yeah.
typically,
Before you guys answer, Lula, was the question around the panel review too?
Yes, it was. Daniel answered it. I just wanted clarification around whether or not they could override decisions, but I think that's clear now.
All right. Okay. Shauna,
So
you can go ahead, and Daniel. Sorry.
go ahead, Shauna.
Yeah, just very quickly, I just wanted to provide some examples. For grants like these, we do look to community organization representatives, and also sometimes it's people within the City of Toronto who are not connected to this grant, but who know neighborhoods within their work or within their personal life. So within this community funding unit, there are other folks who have worked extensively within Regent Park and also in the community development unit. And then we have colleagues in the United Way of Greater Toronto as well, who have worked extensively in Regent Park. Those are just some examples of folks who we may ask, to support us with this review process.
And we just want to name the incredible value that could bring to seeing applications and projects and work plans with that added level of insight and experience, that could result in more collaboration, more critical thinking, not in a bad way, but in a good way that strengthens both the outcomes of those projects and also the design of them. So that's, again, the heart of it. And this is built into our process kind of in a great way, as I know would encourage, but hopefully that gives context as needed.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel. I think we went through that process with the SIF funding. It's not the first time we've had these conversations about a panel over community selection. We appreciate the value, the possibility that it could bring. But I do think that our first recommendation is to allow for the deep dive process to be our selection, and that there be eligibility from the city, and that be the route. And that and I appreciate the fact that in the document it does say maybe, it does not say, and that's the route we would prefer, and that's where I think we're interested in.
Yes.
Shauna, was there anything else that you wanted to add before you head out? Specifically on this item here.
No, no, not specifically, but I do invite anyone with questions, email, call. I'm not going to assume these conversations will be ongoing, but I have to go. So thank you all for welcoming me into this meeting, and have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Shauna.
Yeah, the salary cap, I think it was Palos.
So
just before we go, those with the hands raised up, I think they're old hands. So could you just put them down? Then we can.
Just wanted to add on to what was named. Again, our intention is not that would be the be all and end all, the judge maker, if you will, the judge and decider of everything. That's not our intention in that process. We will check in to see if there is an accommodation that isn't made. In the event that there isn't, we do want to help think through what a solution might be. And our colleagues, as Shauna mentioned, both within the community development unit who work in communities not like Regent Park, they've worked in Regent Park or in other communities similar to it, that they could bring that level of thought, as well as in the United Way who do community work in similar veins, who could bring that level of thought to a conversation as well. So we can think through that as far as, is there a workaround? or is this absolutely needed? So we'll bring back both options after we check in.
Okay. The next item is the salary cap. Paulos.
Thanks, Ismail, and appreciate that there was likely some conversation on the topic yesterday as well. But this one definitely did jump out for me, in particular, a 30% cap for salaries from total budget. And just from experience in 20 years of community programming in the city of Toronto, my ballpark figure would have been closer to 70% or even 80%, in particular in a community like Regent Park and the kinds of engagement, high touch engagement that we're trying to achieve. And given that this is a particularly a neighborhood that has sort of survived, concentrated poverty for generations. So this one really jumped out at me, and I am quite concerned, not just for Regent Park, but really as a city strategy. Why would there be a 30% cap on salaries?
Yes, and
Sorry.
I would like to add on.
I think there was someone else who was going to add. Sorry, Ishmael, I think there was two people who were going to speak to it. I didn't want to jump in and interrupt. So you let me know when I can respond.
Yeah, Paulos and myself.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and I think I tried very hard to sort of understand this piece as well. And you've used Lawrence Heights as an example. And I was wondering what that example was. And I think what you said last time was that 75,000 was sent to Lawrence Heights and that they did a process for that piece. And I was wondering whether this 75,000 to Lawrence Heights was also the 75,000 that was used from the city through the SIF process. And the way we did that process was that 75,000 was actually created for the position I currently hold, which is the RPNA community coordinator. And that project did not involve a salary cap. If it did involve a salary cap, then there would not be a position right now. So our examples, one example from Lawrence Heights used 75,000 for programming, and we used 75,000 for projects that we felt was essential. So I'm just wondering whether this salary cap is actually just a line from best practices from Lawrence Heights, where best practices from this neighborhood has not been considered. So I just wanted to add that piece as well.
Yeah, great questions. And much was discussed yesterday on this topic, and so maybe to give the quick short story of it, the 30% salary target is in proportion to the fund itself. And so in Lawrence Heights, and I recognize that it was commented as far as comparing communities to each other, and I know that has a place, and it also at times doesn't have a place, and I don't mean this in a comparative type of way. We're just also looking at the funding streams that are similar to this that are available to other redevelopment communities. And so for Lawrence Heights has an SDP fund, Alexandra Park has an SDP fund similar to that. The total allotment for you, for Regent Park, is $500,000 year over year. And for them, others that I just described, it's 75,000. So it's not specific to the SIF process by any means. And in those conversations, we've held a target of 30% because in relativity to the larger amount, it made sense to balance out both the operational costs that would be needed to bring a project to life, the cost for programming, the cost for initiative design, for some of the hard costs that go into it, but also recognize that the soft cost of supporting the time and talent that residents bring to that conversation and bring to the table need to be recognized as well. And so for us, this isn't how do I describe it, a sticky subject. We would encourage you to appropriate what you think is appropriate. But I think it's important for you to outline quite clearly in the work plan the need to have X amount of dollars go to a salary person, part-time or full-time. I think we just want to be able to see that that connection. So I wouldn't actually put it into the context of a percentage. Again, use it as a target. And if it needs to go over that or under that, do give kind of that judgment to the work plan process.
Hello?
I have Paulos and then Michael.
Thank you. So, Daniel, given what we've heard about, you know, some of the other elements of the review process and the review panel, I'm not convinced that, I mean, that doesn't allay my concerns about this being invoked. If there was nothing whatsoever said, if it was silent, I think I might be okay. But there is something here that says 30%. Is this going to be a criteria against which projects would be evaluated? That's my first point. And my second point, again, the 30% really throws me off. And I've seen things like admin overhead being, you know, down to 10 or 15 or 20%, but I can't imagine our community health center or any agency or the city for that matter trying to operate under that kind of, even if it is somewhat casually put out as 30%, I found that very strange. And I don't think I've ever seen that before, Daniel. So I would respectfully push back and say the city should really think about why that has been put out here.
Yeah, and as discussed yesterday, it was more of a wanting to remain in kind of continuity with the other streams that this fund takes shape and form in other communities. And that's where that number came from. And again, as mentioned both today and yesterday, use it as a target, document as to why it needed to change. It will not be used against in the funding kind of review or as you mentioned, kind of the final check. And if there needs to be kind of letter documentation of that, I'm happy to email. It's not something that we're hoping is a sticky subject. It's not a practice that we built into all of our grant streams. It's actually specific to the conversations in the STP Revite communities. But again, great feedback. And we don't believe that will look like that in years to come.
Okay, I have Michael and Lula. We will extend this discussion further because it's really important that we iron these items out, because then we're going to prepare our deep dive agenda and stuff. But once we've ironed all this out together, then we can continue the discussion. So Michael and then Lula.
Yes. There's a difference between 70% of $75,000 going to non-salary and 70% of $500,000. I mean, I can perfectly well see how somebody could spend $50,000 on non-salary, but you cannot spend $350,000 on non-salary. So just to be realistic about this, 30% is not a target. It's not like it's a target and we're going to miss the target. It isn't even a target for us. We could try to target 80%, but we cannot target 30%.
I can respond. I don't know if there's others. Diana. While I'm on the line and while there's a leg, I can respond. So again,
Lula, sorry. Is this a question around the 30% too?
Yeah, just a clarification question. Yeah. So just to clarify, I think one thing that I see a bit confusing is that the working groups went into the process of the deep dive without knowing that there was going to be some sort of cap. So this 30% number did come to a surprise. And I was wondering, so say if 10 applications come in, 9 out of those 10 applications, salary cap is significantly above the 30% mark. Will all of the 9 out of 10 go through? I'm just trying to get clarification about how will it be assessed if majority of the applications come in significantly above that 30% mark.
So
you can go ahead, Daniel.
Perfect. So I'll try to respond to Michael's and Lula's in the same breath. Think of it, they are guidelines, they are suggestions for that item that may have been a carryover from the other PDF and document that was created. As mentioned, and if you'd like me to email this to document it, either kind of think of it as a moving target, one that can be appropriated to the concerns and to the needs that the community has, which we are very encouraging of and suggestive of, but wanting to make sure that the proper allotments are made, both to operationalize something and also to the time and talent that residents. And on the note of residents, we do, at least in other communities, do encourage that those funds be used to hire locally, to hire residents of the community. We didn't stipulate this inside of the guidelines. We don't want to be too restrictive, but we would highly encourage that within the spirit of the SDP grant, that there is these ideas of kind of local hiring and local talent
We have
use.
that.
Yeah,
Excellent.
thank you, Daniel. I think, Vivian, we can put this in agreement, and that we would receive from Daniel an email confirmation of what was just said.
Happy to.
Nayan, I see a hand here. And then we can move on to the next item.
Yeah, you know what? It's good. I think we're closing that item. I just wanted to echo that, because none of this work can be done without human resources. And we are limited in that capacity. And we are talking about social development and economic development. We're creating jobs, really building capacity for these projects to get off the ground, and we need people to be able to do that. So I just wanted to try to make a case, but I think we are all in agreement there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we can pass the 1 year execution. We'll go back to that one, but I think the individual-led and collaborative project distinction, I think Marwan and Ibrahim, because we did have a conversation, the distinction between trustees, and then those trustees, because we're using the trustees as to make the application, but the projects are collaborative. So that means some of these projects would require executions from entrepreneurs, executions from different other stakeholders. But we do know that the granting has to go to a nonprofit that has all those criteria you've listed. But the execution, and in terms of the expenses, is through partnerships. So Marwan, and then Ibrahim, and then Daniel.
Marwan, unmute yourself.
Sorry, I'm just tuning in. Ishmael, what's going on? I apologize.
Yeah, apologies. I was just going over this distinction between, we face this grassroots leaders. Sometimes when we want to, we face this at the SIF process as well, where it's two granting streams, an organization, what do you call it, a grassroots stream, and then a collaborative stream. And the reason why we made this is because none would trust grassroots group to do any work unless they were in partnership or collaborative with an organization. So we've worked out a system in this neighborhood where collaborative projects require where we would have trustees, and then they would collaborate with either grassroots leadership, or they would collaborate with entrepreneurs in the execution of a project, because the city does not give funds to groups that are not incorporated. So that context we worked through in our own neighborhood, also in the SIF process. And now we just want to get clarification from these funds that the main partner would be an organization with the criteria listed, but as well the project execution and what do you call funding elements is collaborative. And we just wanted to get, yeah.
Oh, sounds good. I think you pretty much said it, but I guess the ask is, you know, I think you spoke on it, Daniel, when you're talking about the presentation, which was one of those under the eligibility criteria, which is essentially the for-profit entities that exist in the neighborhood, or the unincorporated entities that exist in the neighborhood. Can they essentially partner up or get trusteed by a non-for-profit that falls under the guidelines that you set? Can you just answer that with clarity, please?
Sure, I'll do my best too. I would actually really lean on Shauna for this one. She works in the funding unit, which would be able to speak more clearly to it. And I think she alluded to it in the overview. As far as like the process goes, we would encourage grassroots groups to not just apply through the organizations that are inside of the community, but also seek out what more long-term connections to both stakeholders tables like this and other spaces across the community that offer that to really support them in their development. There does need to be that trusteeship, but not because I think someone said we don't trust. It's not a matter of trust. It's a matter of making sure that when we have to kind of do the proof in the pudding and the checks, when people like accountants and lawyers come knocking on our funding doors, they're saying, where did this money go to? It seems like you gave $150,000 to a group that doesn't exist on paper. And although we may know that group exists and trust that group exists to do great things, it's more of a fact of a matter of making sure that there's kind of a real documentation of that organization or that entity being valid and being able to be trusted with the public's money. So it's not a matter of trust from our end, it's just more for accountability wise. On the note of entrepreneurship, I think that's where I would just pass that over to Shauna. I know she's not here, and so I'll follow up with her on that. The idea is that these monies aren't going to for-profit enterprises. And I know there's a distinction between for-profit enterprises, say some shop, but that of a social enterprise to support local organizations or grassroots groups as they develop their skills and build up an entrepreneurial spirit. I do think that there's room for that, but I want to double check with Shauna just so not to overstep my knowledge.
Okay.
I'm here.
Sounds good. I guess to follow up, please do, because especially in the employment working table, we've run into a lot of local businesses that do exist in the neighborhood that do highlight social value and do operate as social enterprises. So please follow up. Thank you.
Will do. I think more so from our concern is that the organization would just be basically washing the money for a for-profit enterprise, which is the intention that that's not the case. We don't encourage that or want that, and so I think this is both a process of documentation inside of the work plan, but also understanding where the deep dive process has gone. Now, I would also just name that it can't simply be an outsourcing to a business or to the distractions. ADHD, it kind of kicks in when there's noise. It can't be just like
can you guys mute yourselves if you're not speaking, please?
Thank you so much, Vivian. It also can't be outsourced, right? And so I'm not saying that the deep dive process has gone through this, but let's play up a hypothetical where this idea has come from. If you were to apply saying we want to pay X corporation to provide this entire project, that just doesn't make sense, nor is it in the spirit of your deep dive process or in the spirit of where these funds are trying to go to. So wanting to just flag that as well.
I just wanted to push back on this because the reason why we're doing this, I'll give you an example. In the city of Toronto, you outsource a lot of stuff through RFPs. You want something done, you hire someone to do it for you. I've studied procurement because I'm doing community benefits, and I've studied this very extensively, both at the federal, provincial, and city level. Outsourcing work to in areas where you don't have the capacity, it's done in government, it's done by nonprofits. So the outsourcing here is to community members who are entrepreneurs. So I think we have to have further conversation on this, because I think it's not just a straight line where the thought is we're outsourcing to corporations. We're not outsourcing to corporations. We're outsourcing to startups that are within our neighborhoods in terms of employment and that's the goal of the employment table, to encourage employment and entrepreneurship. So if we're not investing in building the capacity and project execution of entrepreneurs, what are we doing at employment table? So I think
I don't think there's a conversation. I agreed, and there's no I don't think there's kind of hesitation that local entrepreneurship, local startups, and local grassroots groups that are, generating wealth for them and their families that's absolutely in line with where the spirit of the grant is, and we encourage that. I would just note that there's a difference between procurement and granting, and a difference in the kind of the need to have both in different processes for each. And so I don't think this is really a big topic, and I'm not trying to make it one. I would just ask that you follow up with Shauna specifically.
Ibrahim here.
Yeah, can we just do some time check? It's 6:31. So can we just do another 5 minutes on this agenda item and then we move to the next?
Okay, I just wanted to get a little bit clarification when it comes to the table and how we have been currently working. The SDP, the way that right now it's been operating was that we have residents, we have grassroots groups, we have agencies, and all of us are trying to carry these projects in the SDP. The way that the formula, or the way I interpret it, of the applying for these is no longer that these are the organizations are trustees. It look like it's organizations that are applying for these grants. It's organizations that are the spearhead of this granting. And I wanted to clarify the relationship between what is happening in the SDP and the relationship between how the city is. I feel like the city doesn't see the resident engagement or the grassroots engagement when it comes to the documents that you have. It recognizes the agencies as providing some sort of a service. The agencies trying to make these SDP projects happen, rather than it being a collaborative work that is not a trusteeship, but is an actual grant going to an agency.
Okay.
I can respond if that would be beneficial. I'll leave it to you, Diana.
Okay. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Joel, is your question around?
What Ibrahim is saying, I'm sorry, is that online with where we are? Can I, so I can, if I'm just add on to what Ibrahim is saying, I think it's a proposal.
Yeah,
go ahead, Joel.
Go ahead.
So I think I'm taking it in good faith that the city is wanting to support the deep dive, and they don't want to see workarounds. I'm also hearing that people don't feel fully confident that that is sufficient, and it doesn't recognize the way that we're working, whereby agencies are not taking the lead. They're working side by side with residents. And I wonder if a decision that we can make, rather than something we have to ask the city to make, is that we would say as a planning committee and as a stakeholders table, if applications are made by any agency outside of this deep dive process, that will be cause for something. And I think it could easily be something as categorical as saying removal from the stakeholders table. Something, but some kind of consequence. It doesn't have to be that strong. And that would be a mechanism that we can enact ourselves that would give us some confidence that this process will work as it seems to be intended to work.
Yeah,
Hello?
Joel, you've inspired me to get a T-shirt that says "Dive deeper, get out."
Hello?
Hi, go ahead.
Yes,
sorry,
Michael.
Diana, I'll give it to you.
So sorry, Michael. Go ahead quickly.
So first, I was just going to say that we shouldn't make assumptions that residents don't have corporations, or that organizations that are incorporated or not incorporated can't call themselves organizations. We should be inclusive, and we should not assume that residents or local people are somehow smaller and less capable of being organized than outside organizations. But in reference to the thing Joel just said, I don't think a group should set itself up as a government that can kick people out and stuff like that. I actually think it is the city's job to deal with this. And if somebody does apply, then I think that's call for some sort of discussion with them or whatever, but they are not beholden to us. We cannot demand that they don't apply. I think it's actually, this is the city's responsibility to accept the deep dive process.
Yeah, I think this item was addressed at the top. I think the item is a bit different. We did say that Shauna will follow up and give us, because she did talk about there being technical tools to make sure that that does not happen. And she'll follow up with us to sort of tell us what those are. But on this one, I think Ibrahim's question was around what do you call the assumption, the distinction between trusteeship and actually leading the project. I think there's different models. I think for trusteeship, you need it for the city. But I don't think the assumption is that the project is actually owned by the organization, unless I'm wrong, Daniel.
I think the project is owned by the community. I think it's important to name the kind of partnership, and it takes various forms and various shapes. The note of trusteeship is purely for that of accountability. For anyone living in Regent Park, giving them $150,000 would change both everything about where they live, how they're living, and any sort of social supports that are connected to that. It would really cause an impact on a whole bunch of things. And so it's both the requirement through the funding policy, through the grant funding policy that the city has, that there needs to be that track record of an organization, not to necessarily own the project, but own the part of it that involves supporting that trusteeship, supporting the receiving the money, accounting for that money, redistributing that money to the places that the work plan outlines. And for the organizations that are doing that, you are accountable to the city, but you're also accountable to the community that you are partnering with, to the community members that you're partnering with. And so I wouldn't see it merely as a fee for service. That seems more trivial than what it is. I think the spirit of what's happening in Regent Park is one of collaboration and of partnership. And I think that in the ways that organizations can help, whether that be in supporting some of the receiving of those funds and the documentation of those funds so that they are able to kind of take that burden. And that's what the trustee fee, quote unquote, is for, to do that administrative backbone support behind the scenes so that that's not in the way of residents and grassroots groups delivering on projects. So it can be seen as both an asset as well as a kind of a technical requirement on our end.
So I think we can put this, Vivian, in agreement with follow-up on entrepreneurs. I think we discussed around outsourcing, and I think maybe I'm not quite sure if we've settled on that one, but I think can we say we're in agreement in this, Daniel?
I would just, I don't know if I'm on mute, one sec. Yes, I'm off mute. I would just want to double check with Shauna. Again, she sees more applications than I do. Yeah. In fact, my role in this is actually just to be a connector to community. That's my play in this. Shauna's role is really to kind of lead the granting process. And so I'm a little out of my expertise, and so I'd want to lean on her knowledge there, just so I'm not speaking out of turn.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Sorry.
Raise your hand, please.
Sorry, guys. It's 6:40, and we have another bigger part we need to finalize. So maybe the 2-week turnaround, if that can be discussed now, and then we can see what other questions are around.
I believe we answered this.
We have Wednesday. We have Wednesday as well, right?
Yeah. So what did we agree on the 2-week turnaround? So we know, so Ines doesn't have to say something if we don't agree, because she wanted to talk on that one.
I think it was in relation to the deadline.
Ines, this was what do you call it? Remember when you said.
Oh, Ines, I don't know if that's you, but there's a lot of feedback coming out.
Vivian, mute everyone and then we start again. Can you mute everyone?
Yep.
Okay, we can, is it clear now? Okay. Go ahead, it's fine.
Ines, it's really hard to hear you. No, it's really hard to hear you and you're breaking up. Okay, I
think it
see
might
that
be
you're
a
trying to join
microphone.
again. She's rejoining. Okay, just letting you know, I've muted everyone. Ines, can you try to unmute now? Maybe on your phone, because I think there's a lot of feedback. No, it's still pretty bad.
It's okay, Ines. We got the information. We will type it in and then we can.
You can hear me from here? No. Still
Ines, I think you might have to get off either. I see you're signed in on 2 devices. Maybe you have to hop off and just use your phone.
Or it's okay. We can, let's move on to because we did agree on this one. So there was an agreement on this 2-week turnaround. And Ismail, we're going to explain what the agreement was.
No, the reason why Ines is on this item is because remember we took the vacation because we were always in a rush, and Ines is the one that brought up to the planning committee that anytime we're discussing these things that we need enough time to make sense of things, and I think I wanted her to speak on this because of that. But since Daniel and has already said that we can have that extension of 1 week. I think that's we can have that in agreement. We can be in agreement on that one.
Okay.
And for what it is worth, I do apologize. Not that it's 100% on me, but I will take the ownership. I have not so big shoulders, but big enough to say I'm sorry for that
hey,
urgency.
I'm gonna put you on speaker, okay? Hey, sorry, friends. I forgot to unmute myself, but I have Ines on the phone. Can she speak, please?
Please.
Okay. Sorry, Ines, give me 1 second. I'm just going to put you on speaker. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm sorry I'm having problem. I'm trying to, I want to speak for myself. I don't want nobody else speaking for me. I'm speaking as a TCAC resident and I want to be heard. Everybody else spoke and I think it's for me to speak when it's my time to speak. And I'm sorry if I'm sounding rude. It's just that it needs to be given that opportunity as a TCAC resident to speak up.
Yes, go ahead, Annie. Sorry about that.
I know you said, because yesterday the thing you gave us 2 weeks for us to do this deep dive. And I was saying, why is it 2 weeks? Well, when the city wants something, the city wants everything in a rush. But when it comes to us, there's not even a time limit. It's all of a sudden it's okay. So you guys have 2 weeks. You guys have to hand in all the stuff and do A, B, and C. At the end of the day, as a TCAC resident, that for me is saying, you know what? We don't care about you guys. You have to do this right away. And good luck to you if you get it in by November 1st. So that's why I wanted to speak, because I need to be heard as a resident, because if this money is coming into the community for residents of the community, and especially with TCAC residents, I would like to put my 2 cents in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ines, for that. Daniel?
Yeah, both. Before I answer the question, since I've got the mic, thank you for demanding to be heard. That is amazing. And for all the residents who are on the call, you should follow suit. It is your community. It is your place to participate in what happens to it. The SDP is a decision-making concept. It's a decision-making table. It is a decision-making venture. And so, yeah, thank you for participating in that decision-making. On behalf of the timeline, or on the timeline note, unfortunately, it is coming up. So the deadline, we are able to extend it a week. Anything beyond that does jeopardize the ability of our teams to get it out. Again, it's not simply sending an e-transfer for $500,000 over an iPhone. There's a lot of background that needs to be documented and work going into making sure that everything is in good standing. And for that timeline, we do need the November 8th to be that marker. We do request that you just send us an email so that it's documented on your behalf and on our behalf, that is the agreement that we're okay with, but just need to receive that email, and we'll consider it November 8th at 11:45.
Vivian, could you put that in there, that extended to November 8th with email, with each proposal? Is it each proposal sending an email of the extension, Daniel?
I'm not too sure how many proposals are coming in. Can you give me a rough number?
Yeah, so far we have about 12 that needs to be winded down. But what I'm asking is, you need for each proposal that's going to be submitted that an email be sent out for each.
I would say it's burdensome to receive or have to go through the process of finding 12 people to email us and then respond back and document all of that. I think on behalf, since this is through and in partnership with the deep dive process, I think I'm going to get that on a t-shirt. I've said it enough times. Since that is the case, if there was a lead on that conversation on behalf of this group and that group to email us, I think one email should suffice. We're not trying to make more hurdles for anybody.
Okay, thank you. I think we can do that.
Okay, so this item took chunk of our meeting time. It's 6:47 on my time here. So the other items on our agenda, if you can post our agenda again, Vivian.
Yeah.
We were going to now.
Don't mean to interrupt you, Diana.
Sorry.
Ines, does that answer your question? Don't know if you're able to hear us.
Ines, you're being asked a question.
There was a question.
Are you good to move on?
Yes, thank you.
I'm just going to put you back on mute, okay? Thanks. Sorry, Diana. Go ahead.
Diana, I think we're good with Daniel.
I'm good. I'm good.
So, Daniel, do you need to stick around for this process, or I think we'll meet with you on Wednesday?
Happy to, yes. I will take my lead from what you're comfortable with. Sorry, it's hard with the echo. I'm getting thrown off, and I just wanted to mention one other thing. Wednesday is absolutely still in place. I do hope the date and time can be shared and that others can join if they have questions. In addition to that, and we do this for other grant streams, but it takes different shapes and forms for each. I know there's 12 applications, and that's great. I'm not commenting on the number. I just want to comment on some of the feedback and support that we are able and excited to provide to them, not to recraft them and reshape them, but to provide some perspective that we have into that process. And so that both strengthens the vision and asks questions that you're able to answer, not in any kind of you're in, you're out type of way, but more so just to help think through it with a partner that wants to do that. And so Sean and I have made ourselves available for kind of 4-hour chunks. And I just want to share those times with you, and hopefully that they'll be documented and that we can be shared with the appropriate people. And again, she referred to that earlier as like the feedback and support sessions. And we're hoping that, with each of your applications that come in, with the trustee, and maybe a couple of the applications are grouped with one trustee or another, we can do them all in the same shot, that we can chunk off a piece of time to review the ideas and the draft work plan to really provide some of that feedback. Oftentimes what we find with groups is that there's a lot of interpretation as to how much do I put in this work plan, what's too little, what's too much, and we don't want to overburden the process. It's actually rather simple of a work plan to design. And you actually already have all that information in your heads. It's just a matter of filling in the blanks. And so we're happy to dedicate some time and do hope that people will take us up on that offer to help, work with you through that process. And so the first of those times is the 5th of November. That's next Thursday between 2 and 4.
Okay, get those dates, Vivian, and then we can.
I have November 5th between 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Is
And
there another date? Am I missing?
There is, yes. It's the 29th of October. So a week from now, actually right before this session, from 3 to 5. In addition to that, there's the next Wednesday to answer any questions. But our hopes for these 2 sessions that I just named is that it's more of a smaller group. We would probably say cap it at around 3. And not to say that only 3 people are involved in that project. We know many more are. But if there are certain people that are quote unquote holding the pen on that, or if there's a trustee that's helping think through that project with a group, there can be a little bit more of an intimate dialogue around some of the outcomes or different ways to measure that we've seen in our work across the city, or other things like that. So we really do want those to be good opportunities for feedback and support. We aren't looking to just throw this application out there and say, we hope it's great. We want to be able to be of a good sounding board.
Daniel, the structure we have in the SDP is 3 co-chairs. Let's include the trustee there. That's 4. Is it possible to make the session 5 people?
Yeah, I'm not really stuck on the number. I'm just wanting to emphasize it's a smaller group. It's hard to, decide what color to paint the wall with 100 people. That's what happens in community often, and it's a beautiful process. Sometimes for documents like this, it's easier to really work through a conversation, not with excluding people, but just delegating that authority to write on behalf of them. And then can bring it back and have that conversation for transparency. We're not trying to say that's not important. It's easier to have a conversation with a few people that know the project more intimately.
So 3 to 5, because I do know that all the co-chairs are heavily involved, and with an additional trustee and other people who's helped, I think 3 to 5 makes sense.
And year 29 is a town hall meeting.
That may be canceled depending on some conversation. And I think it's 2 to 5. The town hall is at 5, I think.
Yeah, so this one here is from 3 to 4. Sorry, 3 to 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, the reason for and this is maybe too much information, but I want to be as transparent as possible. I know some of these meetings are happening during the workday, and that's not because we don't know that there's a lot of great meetings that happen and more easy for people to gather at night, especially if you're a resident in the community. We do respect that. If that's the case, do let us know and we'll accommodate. It's more because of some of the staff on this project, namely Shauna, they being unionized positions, there needs to be some kind of accommodations that are made. And so for those that work in unionized environments, I do hope that makes sense to you.
Okay, thanks Daniel for that. I know guys, it's 6 minutes to 7. Can I ask for an extension of time so we get into preparing to get the dates we want to do our deep dive process?
Yeah.
And the agenda. If I ask for an extension of time to maybe 7:30, how are people feeling? Please stand up, go take some, Everybody okay? Okay.
Diana, I'm gonna have to drop off, unfortunately. This is Paulos.
Okay, so we will update you on that. So it's really that we really need to nail this today, that we get the information for the deep dive.
All right,
okay.
So I just wanted to, before I leave, thank all of the participants today. We're very fortunate to have you today, Daniel. I want to really thank you for your honesty and your transparency and your knowledge. So very grateful that you've been assigned this particular project, and I hope you understand we are fierce merely because we're here to represent our community and nothing at all personal. Thanks also to Lula and to Shauna. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thanks, Paulos. So yes,
I may have to step away too. We got sort of the television babies.
The meeting is being recorded for those who remember. So if you want to check it again, So, but maybe before, if you, Vivian, if you can bring back again the agenda.
Yep.
So if people, maybe before you go, just the dates, Joel, in terms of the deep dive. We want to nail that.
1 second, I'm just gonna pull up the agenda.
Okay. So as you know, the deadline is November 1. There is an agreement for 1 week extension of some proposals, but at least we want to make sure that by November 1st, we do have our proposals ready. So we need to prepare our deep dive process. And so the dates and times we had suggested was on Monday, we usually have the funding committee meeting, which was supposed to be from, what is time? Sorry, remind me again, 5 to 7? Yeah, so that's the time we thought we could use that time. Instead of having the funding committee meeting, we can use that time to have our deep dive process, which is like literally Monday. And so if people are in agreement with the date, please, if our people are available for that date, Monday is October what, 26, I guess?
Yeah, 26.
Yeah, Monday is October 26.
Day of the election.
Hello?
Yes, Michael.
So, yes, that was the time of the funding committee, but we can't use exactly that time because it does have to be 3 hours to get it done. So it would be 5 to 8.
Okay, thanks. 5 to 8. Nayan, you have your, okay, go ahead, Nayan.
Hi, I just wanted to make a suggestion to all the working groups. So I'm outside, so there might be some background noise, but I just wanted to fasten the process to ask all the working groups to connect before we meet for the last deep dive session. Like the safety working group is already meeting tomorrow. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I think it's just going to make the conversation more focused and productive. So I think where possible, if the working groups could meet first to discuss and try to see areas that could be perhaps rethought. So yeah.
Yes, good suggestion. Thanks for that, Nayan. Nayan. Sorry, guys. So yes,
sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
October 29, it's the town hall meeting, right? And there is
Ismail
some
was
people
going to say something about that date.
Yeah, October 29 is the town hall. The proposed dates are October 26th or October 27th. I think the town hall is October 29.
Yeah.
And there's some conversation
I don't think
of the possibility of extending it. So yeah, go ahead.
Soraya, you want to say something around that?
The town hall is not going to happen. That I think we are meeting tomorrow to extend it.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay, so the dates we're looking for are for the deep dive process. So we have October 26 or October 27.
26, we have a workshops from 2 to 4 for overdose workshop. So Ines is on that.
Yeah, so the proposal for 26 is from 5 to 8 p.m. 3 hours. I know it's a lot of time, guys. Yeah. Alice, you need a question?
Yeah, so can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I think the EED working group is having our monthly meeting on the 27th. So Naya suggests it's better for the working group to meet first before we have the deep dive process. So I don't know, it will be like on the 29th or 28th will be better because the EED working group is meeting on the 27th.
I would recommend that you informally meet whenever you're able to, and that we make use of the week. We clear out all the agenda. We clear community building, communication, safety. We clear out all the agenda, and that the chairs meet, organize informally, and that we use the 5 to 8 o'clock to the best of our ability.
So Ismail is so can you repeat your suggestion again, Ismail?
And this is a recommendation. I'm not making a decision for you. I'm recommending this, that we clear out all the agenda for all the working groups. If it's not emergency, if it's emergency, you do it in the time that you're able to. But all the evenings for that week be cleared out, and that we focus on the deep dive execution. So we take the 26th, and if the 26th works, we take the 27th. I think all other stuff, whether it's the community building chairs, meet informally, talk through the phones, whatever you can able to do. But for that week, we clear out.
Gail, did you want to say something?
I would agree. I would agree with Ismail. If this is your priority, then you have to cancel everything and find a way to meet to. Yeah, I agree with him.
Yes, I believe we can arrange that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So we are agreeing that Monday, the 26th, 5 to 8 p.m. we will have our deep dive.
Community building and safety did not speak.
Oh, community building. Sorry.
Safety,
Wait, I just spoke.
Yeah.
Safety, yeah, they just spoke.
Okay, do they agree with that?
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. October 26th is election day. The polls, I think they close what time? 9 p.m. Yeah, so if people are able to go to vote early that day, we'll appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Attendance for our deep dive. Maybe that's something we need to say again. The attendance, like last time, we had all the co-chairs and representative. I think it was 4 representatives from each working group, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 4 representatives. So each of the co-chairs would have to send emails to their representatives to attend for Monday.
Okay.
I think you may need to explain why the time is such short turnaround, so we don't do what we're also complaining about having done to us. So given that tomorrow's Friday and we want them at a meeting Monday night, it would be courtesy to give an explanation of why this is such a crushing fast.
Yeah. Exactly. To your representative when you're inviting them to the meeting. Please do that. Lloyd?
You're muted.
Lloyd, you're muted. You're muted, Lloyd. You're still muted. We can't hear you. Yes, that's good.
I might be working the election, so I'm out.
Okay, but you'll be, yeah.
I'm open that Inez can probably be there and Nyan, and I guess.
Yeah, and I think your input will be good when you meet with your safety committee.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Lloyd.
I'll also be there, Diana.
Sorry?
Marlene,
yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Marlene.
No, I will also be there.
Yes, Marlene will be there. Thank you. Great. Okay. So now the other part we want to go into is to really explain what the agenda for that day will be. And I'll ask Michael to give us that quick update. And Vivian, could you put up the draft agenda, the proposed?
Yes.
Alice, your hand is up. You want to say something while we're preparing?
Yeah, it's only a very quick suggestion. It's a very quick suggestion. So when the co-chair send out the invite for the deep dive date for October the 26th, please include the proposals, the compiled proposals of the deep dive, so people can have a review, a refresh. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, for when co-chairs send out an email
to invite the working group representatives.
Yeah, can we please send out the compiled proposal so people can review? It's a long time, right?
Okay, so Michael will just, what time is it right now? It's 7:05. Michael, I'll give you 10 minutes to go over the agenda.
Okay, hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, So the broad categories of the agenda are half an hour for introduction and context, an hour and a half for consensus, and an hour at the end if we need to vote. I think Ishmael will be doing the introductory part. I will be facilitating the consensus part. And
Regent, can you expand so people can see? Yeah.
And I believe that probably Ishmael will facilitate the voting part if necessary. You may have a agenda document per se. I did not prepare an agenda document. I prepared slides for the consensus part. So I don't know if you have that available to show people.
Yes, Michael, I have your slides. Feel free to point me to
Okay,
the slide.
so the first 5 slides are just overall description of the decision-making process. I don't think we need to go over that again. The sort of really content slides are 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Okay, I'm on 6.
So once we get into the consensus process, and after we've gone through the first slides, which just describe consensus followed by voting if necessary, but once we get into the consensus part, there's basically 3 slides to sort of explain what we're doing, and then there's the 4th slide, which is the bulk of the meeting, which will be actually the steps we're going to take. So the first 3 slides are just descriptions. It basically describes why we're here. There's a process slide, what we're doing. We're reducing the size of our budget so they fit within. And I've made the assumption throughout this that we are now including the Chris Brillinger Fund, and it's 625 that is our target. So it says we have to fit within 625, and that's what we're doing. The second slide is a kind of a how-to slide, just offering suggestions on how to reach a consensus. That's slide number 7. Slide number 8. Are you going through these? Because I don't think we have to read them out. I'm just sort of saying what the general content is.
Yes,
I'm sharing.
So slide number 8 is just our purpose, that we reach a final set of proposals to give to the city. And then slide number 9 is the actual steps we're going to use. So this is, slide number 9 is the bulk of the meeting. So it's basically start with identifying where in the proposals you can reduce the size of the proposals. And that's not a decision-making step. It's just to get people to start thinking that, yes, there are items that we don't have to do 10 of, we can do 8 of, or whatever. So what they can look, we can identify possible reductions. Then after we've done that, the next step is to actually get people to sort of suggest that they would agree to certain reductions. And, you know, I think that once we get past the first step, then the second step isn't going to be that difficult. We'll obviously have to see how it goes. And then the third step is we have to now then, once we get it down to 625, we'll have to pick out the ones that we want to go to the Chris Brillinger Fund and the ones that will go to the main larger fund. So that's probably just a sort of procedural matter that won't be too difficult. So that's the basic procedure. The other thing I wanted to mention, I don't know, is Denise on the call?
No, she's not.
Denise is not here today.
All right.
We will take a question after Michael has finished presenting.
All right. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that I believe that for the purpose of actually having a display up during the meeting, it's best to use Excel rather than Trello, because I think that Excel is easier to edit the numbers, and that the Trello thing was kind of busy and it doesn't focus you to the right information, whereas in Excel you can really put the cells anywhere you want. And I'm working on an Excel that will make it easy to see and visualize the proposals and the budgets and the changes that we make. So I think I need to arrange to meet with, I mean, not necessarily in person, but to phone Denise and arrange for her to have something to display during the meeting. I mean, if she really thinks we can go with Trello, then she can, but I think I have a better way of doing it with Excel.
Okay. Anything else, Michael, before we take questions?
I think that's the main points.
Okay. Thank you, Nayan, and then Ines.
Hi, my question was actually around the, oh, sorry, it's so windy out here. Sorry. My question is for the Chris Bellinger Fund. I was actually going to, Michael, thank you for laying it out for us, the process, because I was wondering how we were going to put projects together for that. Oh my God, it's so windy. And I was actually thinking, in each of the working groups to think about which projects could actually fall under that before we come, because I know in safety we've got a project that's dedicated to youth, and from Daniel's presentation it sounded like it couldn't be like we have one, for example, youth empowering youth projects go under both. So it looks like we can only apply for one of the two available funding streams. So it would be great if the working groups actually think about which projects would qualify for the Chris Bellinger Fund for Youth, and safety has one that would qualify, and I think community building might have had one too.
Daniel just posted, yes, you can only apply for one of the two. So he responded in the chat.
What do you mean?
Anayan was asking if you, for the youth project, can you apply it in the 500 stream or the 125 youth stream? So there are two. I think the question we want, since Daniel, you're still here, is that we have the 500 stream and the 125. So I think Michael was asking if we combine those two together or we are seeing them as separate streams.
I think for our purposes, we've combined the process into one, just out of simplicity for everyone, including the conversations here. And so if you want to combine that decision-making process that you have similarly, go for it. My only caveat would say, when you're applying, the system will ask you which fund you're applying to. And the reason for that is not to draw confusion, but because we have to be accountable as to which projects are going to which streams. So it's more so for just documentation.
Yes, that was my assumption, is that we would have to still come up with 500,000 for one and 125,000 for the other. I just thought that that could be the last step.
And I would also note, just as it was said before, there's some great projects that already seem like they fit the mold of that Chris Bellinger Fund, at least when I read them.
Okay. Thanks, Daniel.
Sorry, can I just jump in again? It's Nayan. My suggestion is that instead of doing it at the very end, if we are able to carve out projects that could just fit right into the Chris Bellinger Fund, why don't we do that? Because then that leaves more room for other projects to go under the 500K. But it's just my suggestion. I'll just leave it there.
Okay. Michael, do you want to answer that? And then we have a question from Ines and then Dini.
All right. Well, I mean, the amount of room is the same either way, right? So yes, it can't hurt to sort of know as soon as possible which ones are being directed towards the Chris Bellinger Fund. But in the end, it comes to the same thing whichever way we do it.
Thanks, Michael. Ines?
Okay, so my question or clarification. All the SDP tables are going to be applying for like the way we have been doing it with the deep dive. And you're, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys saying we're going to make decisions who gets it or who doesn't or who gets how much?
Not so. For this, for the 500, the deep dive process is only looking at proposals that have come out from the working groups.
I know that.
Yes. So there is
I mean,
no,
safety is going to be applying for that, but I'm asking because even back then, when the deep dive, they were saying, well, safety shouldn't get a huge lump sum of money because we got money from the SIF grant. The SIF grant has nothing to do with the SDP money. I'm just bringing it in here because we don't want to be chipped out. And I needed to put that in there. I mean, that's been brought up. As a safety, we're qualified like anybody else to apply for grants and get grants from the SDP of this 500 grand.
Yeah, we wouldn't be double dipping.
Yeah, I know, but I'm that's why I'm bringing this up, Denny, because that was brought before. Oh, well, you guys can't because you guys can't get enough more than what you requested because you already got SIF grant. No, that's a totally separate situation, and that should not be included or counted in here because the SDP is for the residents of the community to request for committees.
Yeah, and
the
we're
group.
not asking for the same money from two different funds. We're not for the same thing.
Yes.
It's not double.
Yeah. Okay. I know I just needed to put that in there. Thank you.
Yeah, noted. Okay. Dini?
Yeah, and if we're going to be working, if safety's working on refining its proposals or doing some work on the proposals, we need, how do we do that? And then, because you guys, what we're working on Monday, like, so how do we need to get that information to be used for Monday?
Hello?
Hello.
So
Yes,
I think the Monday meeting, that the deep dive in general, was always supposed to be a decision-making meeting. That's why we wanted to get enough people there from all the working groups so that people could actually make decisions. So, I mean, at this point, the Chris Brillinger Fund really helps us out because now what we effectively need is about a 20 to 25% reduction. And you know, if people can just look at their proposals and come forward with, you know, we could reduce this number by a little bit here and a little bit there, it shouldn't be that hard to get 20% reductions. And, you know, that's why we're having the meeting. The purpose of the meeting is to actually put forward those possible reductions and agree on something.
Yeah, so I guess my question is in the process. So then we would just bring our revised proposals to that session?
You can bring revised proposals, but it's possible that everybody, that they will still need to be revised again at the session. If people can bring to the session proposals that sufficiently are revised and we don't have to do anything on Monday, that's great, but I think that's probably unrealistic and we should assume that the Monday meeting will have to make some revisions.
Okay. Any more clarifications on that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Ismail?
Sorry, but was that not just a yeah from Lloyd saying he needed more clarification?
Oh, Lloyd, sorry, I didn't know it was Lloyd, yeah.
If we go in safety and get our projects and we do it, and this is what we got to define, why would you then turn around and then want and try to define it more? Because we deserve what we get. We have projects in going. We're already started on others. We're ahead of everybody else. Why are you guys trying to screw us over by trying to take money away from us? That's what I don't get.
Well, this was never supposed to be a separate group. We wanted to have all of the working groups come to this meeting. If that basic premise doesn't work, then I don't know what we can do. Like we have to cooperate with each other, and It's not like somebody's trying to take the money away from you. It's that there isn't that much money. There's $625,000. There isn't enough money for all of the proposals that we currently have. Nobody's taking the money away. They just haven't given us $800,000.
All I'm saying is we went away, we got our proposals, we worked on our proposals, we defined them. We're going to meet, you're going to define it now. Then you want us to bring it back on Monday and you're going to define it less, more preservative. If we do and define our projects on Friday or whenever we do it, why are we going to bring it back to you guys so that you can look it over and they say no, or maybe? As a safety network, we did our projects, we got our projects going, we're doing the best we can, and now all I see is that we're going to be, oh, now you guys want to deduct more from us because we're pretty sure what we want. What, so another group can grab that money?
But we always knew, Lloyd, that there was only so much in the pot. It's an issue of sharing. Now we're into negotiating so we can all do something.
Well, we are going to all do something, but why is it that we get we have ours down and we've already started some of our projects and now we're defining it. And then when we define it, this is what I don't get. We will define our projects and submit them or bring them. Right?
Hey, yeah, hey, Lloyd, it's Nyan. I think we can jump in. Lloyd, we have, oh shoot, we have a chat tomorrow. I think we can definitely talk about our projects. I also think that no one is making a decision for any of our projects. Like, we are all making decisions on all of our projects. So like, you have a say on other working groups projects just as much as other working groups have a say on ours. I agree with you on all of your fronts, but I just wanted to ask one more question before the safety network meets tomorrow. Is if we apply under Chris Bellinger Fund this year, are we eligible to apply for our year 2 to 5 funding under the SDP 500,000 fund?
Yes.
Yes.
Because I don't want just to apply under the Chris Bellinger Fund that's just 1 year and then get cut out from the rest of the SDP fund from year 2 to 5.
No, it won't be like that. I think you still can apply for the next year. Okay, I have in the hands in section, I think Ismail, then I have Paula. Oh, sorry, Ismail, Ines, Paula, and Gail.
I took my hand down.
Oh, you put your hand down. Okay. Ismail, Ines, Gail.
Yeah, I think we're complicated. We're actually having the conversation we're supposed to be having on Monday right now. Each of the working group has worked hard for the proposals.
Sorry, Ismail, can you speak up?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you now.
Yeah, so what I said was that I think we're having the conversation we're meant to be having on the deep dive, which is that all of us have worked very hard to send these proposals, and each working group has really the difficult job of reducing some of the stuff and making sure that the whole SDP proposals are funded. This difficulty of making decisions about funds is not the first time we went through this. We've went through this many times before. So I think we're all worried that we're all thinking about the working groups and the resources we need. But I think we will have a discussion and we will build consensus. And that's the most important thing. One group does not have more power than another group. And I think overall, we will have to try to meet that minimum 650 because we have no other option. That's what the total funds are. And the decisions we make is a decision we will all make together. Of course, that does not mean each working group, all of us will be happy. But I think Gail, in a meeting, once showed what it takes to make these decisions. She was representing the employment team, and when she was making a decision, she thought, yes, I'm representing the employment. But because of the conversation she was having with other people, it decided that, hey, this is more urgent, and I think I can live with giving funds to this group and reducing my funds. So I think sometimes we do think about each working group, but I think the deep dive will force us to think about the whole SDP. And of course, if through the deep dive, we are unable to make a decision, we do have a process in mind of finalizing our decision as well. If the planning committee decides overall that this process does not work, that means we would have to work with the city to submit all the applications to them. They will review it for eligibility, and then I don't like it, and then we would have to make use of that panel. If we cannot make the decision, someone else will have to make that decision for us. But I do have the confidence, we've done it before, that we can give the city our proposals that add up to 650. I think we have the confidence, but if we're unable because of it proves difficult, then we have no other option but the city process. And I think either ways, the SDP will get funded.
Thanks, Ismail. I have, I think it was, who was next? Oh, I lost my track of people here.
Gail is next.
Gail said, yes, Gail, thanks.
Yes, again, of course, I always like to remind us, people first. I think when we speak about our and we should be careful. Are we talking about we, a group, or we, the community? Money always makes people do and say crazy things. I would also caution us as well that you're trying to meet a specific goals in your projects. You're not trying to meet a money goal. And so as you look at your project and you say, well, this project is 50,000, is going to cost us or valued at 50,000 in all your benefits. And you have to make that decision. Can you take it down 20%? Or would there be a risk to your outcomes? And that is the question each group has to ask, rather than asking yourself the question, how can I cut corners? You know, at the end of the day, you have to make it work, but you have to look at it from the whole community perspective rather than the safety group, the EED. Else, what you're saying is safety is more important than EED, then more important than community building. And that can't be the case because it's the residents that said, these are all the areas that are important to us. And yeah, that's my statement.
I have Dini and then Daniel, and then I think we should close this and then I'll make a conclusion on this. Thanks, Dini.
Well, just I think for clarity, one of the things is that we're sitting right now with asks at $800,000, but we're looking at a $625,000 pot. So that's why we need to relook at our proposals and see if we can get them down a little bit. My question is, and I've lost Anisha, but Nayan, is this meeting at 2 o'clock on Friday confirmed?
Yes.
Okay, because I haven't seen a link.
Oh, okay. Anisha sent an email with the link, but I'll resend it to you.
See, how does this happen? Okay.
What meeting is that, please?
Daniel?
Yes, just a comment. I'll be very brief. I'm sorry for interrupting. Please do, and I strongly encourage groups to take advantage of the feedback and review sessions, not as a kind of elimination of those budgets that you have created or elimination of the ideas that you have prioritized, rather an opportunity to hear from someone who hasn't seen them before or is bringing a neutral perspective to them to say, hey, we think that this budget, given our years of experience in similar work, might be up or down. And similarly, some of the methodology for evaluation that you're thinking around might be able to be, you know, think about this way or this way. And so please do take advantage of them. They will only bring greater clarity to the work that you already have, and it will further refine and strengthen your proposals. And from my end, as a friend who's worked with many of you for a very long time, I want to see all of these proposals go through. And I would ask that you kind of double check with the things that I asked to double check with, namely around entrepreneurship with Shauna. I don't want you to get down a path and then have to kind of go a step backwards. That's counterproductive. I'd rather you have the clarity you need before you walk through this process that you have outlined. So just wanted to encourage that. And if those times that we suggested don't work and there's a better time slot that works for schedules, I'm happy to accommodate whatever might be needed to facilitate that.
Thank you, Daniel. Ines, and then Gail, is that an old hand? Gail and Dini, are those new hands, old hands?
Old.
Okay. Ines?
Okay, so Gail, this is not about competing or who gets more money. The safety, even from the beginning when we were in the deep dive, from the beginning, okay? Because we got SIF grant, and I have to bring that back. That is not included in here what it is, what we're requesting. I have the papers right here, all of them, that everybody requested, all their funds. I have everybody's requesting for funds here, okay? It's not about who's better or who's doing what, no. And this is about for the community. And my point is that it's, safety gets attacked a lot of times when we request the money, because we got money from here, so you're not entitled for over here. So that's why I need to speak as a TCAC resident. Please don't do that. And I'll repeat myself again, this money, the SDP coming into the community is for residents in the community, and especially for TCAC residents through this whole revitalization. And we all need to understand that. It's not about competition or going anywhere. It's about doing the work for the residents in the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ines, for that. Dini, is that a new hand? Gail, a new hand? Dini, is your hand up? No, okay. Gail?
No, hand down.
Hand down,
I put my hands in the chat.
Daniel, is that a hand up or hand down?
Okay.
So Ismail, do you want to say something before I conclude?
Yeah, I think what do you call, we're actually having the debate that or the discussion that we're meant to be having at the deep dive. I think what do you call, I agree with Ines. What do you call, there are reasons why we should go one way or the other, and I think but what I do want to say is that for community building has what do you call, TCHC residents there as well. Murshida, what do you call, communication, there's residents there as well who are TCHC. What do you call, Ibrahim, employment, Marwan. So I think what do you call, as a group, we have to make sense of all of this and provide the best choice we can. And I think that's going to be a difficult conversation, but I think we can make it. And if we're not able to make it, we are also, what do you call, there are alternative plans. And given the deadline, I think, I believe we've stepped up on the plate before and we can do it again. I have to step to another meeting. My apologies. When can we end this meeting?
Yeah. You took over before I wanted to finalize. Anyways, Joel, quickly.
Let's end this.
Okay. I would just, I hear the passion, your passion, Ines and Lloyd. I wouldn't mind actually talking with you or having some process for a discussion, because I think you have different assumptions about the way the SIF was decided. And if I could have a discussion with you, that might help to prepare the ground for Monday. And that's not just me, but others members of the community building working group, and that are TCHC residents too. So if you're open to something that we could hopefully prepare the ground a little, that might help us to have a better discussion on Monday evening.
Okay, so thank you guys. I think we need to come to a conclusion to this meeting today. As a way forward, I think we have agreed on what the discussion that we did with the city on what are the areas we need to come together. So those ones, there will be a follow-up on that. The deep dive itself, we agreed to meet Monday, the 26th. The deep dive prep team, they will send each, I think coaches, they will send them the city templates and the budget templates. So you guys can go over those to look at that. And also an agenda will be sent out for that. And again, a reminder that we all email the reps, your reps that are coming to the deep dive. And I suggest that the deep dive task group maybe meets before the meeting, so we can again look at some of the issues that have been raised today in this meeting, but how we're able to address them when we have the deep dive. And I just want to say that, you know, the SDP, the goal of the SDP is to create a socially inclusive and cohesive region park. And under that, residents, after the consultation, they said for us to build a cohesive and inclusive region park, we have to address 4 areas. 4 areas is safety, employment, community building, and communication. How do we communicate? How do we build a community? How do we make sure there's employment, local employment, and how also and economic opportunities for our residents, and also the issue around safety, right? Safety was also key in that. So we shouldn't look at this in isolation, because if one didn't work, how are we going to have that cohesive community, that inclusive community? So let's just remember that this is what the goal of the SDP is. And for that goal to happen, that's why we have those 4 working groups. Believe me, it could have been maybe after this, after another 5 years, we might come up with other issues that we need to address, that the community feels, no, I think we're done with safety. I think we're done with this. Now let's look at that. So for this time around, these are the 4 areas that we need together to work together as community and residents. So, so the stakeholders table involves everybody for us to come up with that major goal that we have to achieve together. And it's not in isolation. So the deep dive process, please, let's look at that under that umbrella. Are our projects going to help us build that cohesive community? Are our projects making sure that we're inclusive? So inclusive also means the process we are going through, right? Is it an inclusive process? Is everybody heard? Is everybody being listened to? So that's very clearly what our deep dive process is about. And how do we share that pot of money together? That's again inclusive, right? How do we make sure that we can share that pot together? So let's think of it in that way. Alice, I see your hand.
Hello?
Yes, Michael.
So yeah, we need to just like get some logistical matters. It would be really good if we could either have a meeting of the preparation committee, or at least Denise and a couple of other people tomorrow. I don't want to be having a final meeting on Monday and find out that, you know, stuff has to be changed and it's too late to do it before 5 o'clock. So we do have to get at least some work done tomorrow. So I don't know how we can arrange that. I guess Vivian is not working tomorrow. I don't know if that's the case or not, but somebody has to sort of help contact Denise and get this arranged.
Okay, me and Ismail will follow up on that. Thanks for that. Alice, did you have something before we conclude?
Yeah, I was asking, are we having any deep dive prep meeting before October the 26th at 5 o'clock?
Yes, that's what just Michael said. So we will.
Yeah, but I was asking, yeah, because.
Yes, the meeting will happen tomorrow. We'll send an email. Okay, so on that note, guys, if everybody, thank you. Yes.
Sorry, just to quickly confirm to make sure I have it right. Let me know if I'm missing anything. Action agenda will be sent out. Co-chairs will email the representatives that are coming to the deep dive date, and also include the proposal so folks have time to read it before the Monday deep dive day. We're agreeing on October 26th, Monday, 5 to 8 for deep dive. Templates and applications will be also sent out. If you didn't receive it or can't find it, you can email Daniel. Did I miss anything?
Yes, so on the deep dive day, we won't have the full proposals, but we'll just have the gist of what the proposals are and the money. So please, if you are able to just make sure you have a copy in front of you with the full proposals, but we will just have the main items from the proposals.
Just a heads up that we have the 50K operations budget meeting at 12 o'clock tomorrow.
Yes, yeah.
Safety meets at 2.
Okay.
Question, do
Isn't it
I
at 2
need
p.m.?
to, sorry,
Sorry.
do I need to send the applications to everyone, or like, does everybody have that? Can co-chairs, can co-chairs like make sure you have it?
Yeah, make sure, can you send to the co-chairs and then they can send to everybody. And maybe we'll look at the list of the people who came to the deep dive last time. Maybe we can send them that too.
Okay, can someone send it to me then? Because I don't have it.
I might not have it. Ismail can coordinate with you on that. Ines, quickly.
Wasn't the meeting at 2 p.m., Denny?
Well, yeah, did you not
So can we discuss times outside the meeting so we can conclude?
It has to be
outside the meeting, Diana.
No,
Hello?
just wait. Yes, Michael, quickly.
So 2 things. One is we definitely have to have Denise at that meeting. So 2 p.m. is a great idea, but it has to be a time when she can be it. So that's number one. Number two is hello?
Yes.
Number two is Diana, can you phone me early tomorrow so we can start to get this worked out?
Okay,
No, we have a meeting tomorrow.
Okay. Ines and Dina.
We have a meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. with the 50K. Why is they making that meeting for tomorrow at the same time?
No,
I thought the 50K was at 12 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, the 50K is at 12 o'clock. The safety network group is meeting at 2.
The safety network is 2. All right, then we can't do anything. I don't know. We're going to have to try to do it in the morning, or it'll be later in the day. But we have to. We do need a meeting tomorrow, and like, can Diana please phone me at like 9 a.m. or something so we can make sure this happens?
Yes, I will send out an email to everybody on the deep dive task group to make sure we have our times together. So now that you mentioned that the safety is at 2, you said the safety is at what time? So I will send an email to the deep dive task group either in the morning meeting or later in the day. So yes.
The safety is only for
and to
certain
Ishmael's
people.
point, kind of putting objectives to each of those.
Ishmael, can you put yourself on mute, please?
Okay, guys, can you mute everybody?
Yep, give me a sec.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Again, way forward before we leave the meeting. Vivian will send out information that's needed for the deep dive to the co-chairs for them to forward to the reps they will be giving. I will set up a meeting for the deep dive task group so that we can meet together. And hopefully we'll see tomorrow, either in the morning or later in the, I think it might be later in the afternoon, so that we have every participant there. So we might have the meeting after this safety. Okay, so that's what I will suggest for now. So in that respect, thank you everybody. Have a good night, and I will send the information to everybody. So yes, and Vivian will send the links to some of these items that we have. Okay, have a good night, guys.